Let's bring on board Arun Tukral as well, who joins in from Axis Securities to talk about his outlook on individual sectors. And Arun, if I may, my colleague just spoke about what could potentially emerge on the 20th of September, saying that some of the key states may oppose that GST rate cut for the auto sector. Given that they're really pinning their hopes on this coming about, reduction in the GST, would this come as a bit of a disappointment?
Yeah, basically auto is going through the cyclical slowdown, and this may be one of the trigger for the reversal, because otherwise if you look at the lack of funds or the NBFC problem or the cost of ownership and whatever the other recent problems we have seen, and the auto sector is not been doing well and the production cuts happening. So I think this could have been a great news, and let's keep the hope, let's keep our finger crossed. So this can be really a dampener because the market is hoping that something of the sort may come.
Oh yes, indeed.
Or maybe scrappage policy also, if that is announced soon. Yeah.
A lot is really expected from the auto sector, and the sectors really pinning their hopes on a lot being done. Meantime, NBFCs, just wanted to understand what your outlook is on the space. You believe it's still not out of the woods, or would you be picking out select names within the sector?
So obviously select names, if you look at the marquee name like Bajaj Finance and all, where there is a good ALM in place, and we have seen the performance over the years. So barring one or two, I think NBFC sector is still not out of woods, and I think lot of paper is due for renewal in the next few months, and we have to wait and watch and see, and the kind of funding, whether they will get it or whether the rollovers will happen. So I think as of now, to stay away from NBFC is our advice to investors.
Okay, fair enough. You're positive on IT, Arun. Talk to us about the rationale in terms of, how much potential you see in IT. Is it just a safe haven bet right now? Are you seeing this on the back of, moves in the dollar index? Are you seeing a substantial earnings growth? What's really the rationale?
I think a bit of everything what you said. So what we have seen that the order size is increasing. If you look at the recent result of the biggies, I think that was stellar results, and maybe the guidance, if you look at Infosys has increased the guidance. The overall spend has increased, and there are a lot of deal wins happening. Maybe I think yesterday Tech Mahindra got a big deal win. So and the tailwind of the rupee. So all these factors over well, and they have still the pricing power, unlike let's say pharma. So that way we are saying we are definitely positive on IT, and this is one of our most preferred sectors along with one or two more like corporate banks and retail banks.
Okay, fair enough. And let's also talk about, what your outlook is within the oil and gas space. You have heard announcements come in from Reliance Industries. We were looking closely at that Aramco deal. Some of the other OMCs as well of late have been a buzz. Where do your preferences lie within the energy space as a whole?
So energy space, as of now we are neutral because if you look at Reliance is obviously not at an oil and gas story. It has got now so many businesses. It's a diversified, whether you talk about retail or telecom and all. And OMCs, yes, in spurts they do better, and then at some point of time there are regulation, and there is a lot of speculation around oil prices all the time. And if you look at now again OPEC meet, whether the production cut will happen, whether there will be a supply cut, whether US will continue to command a major share. So I think there are a lot of regulation, lot of uncertainties, and so oil and gas, that's why we are not that bullish. We generally keep a neutral stand on this sector.
Right. What about some of the consumption spaces, and Arun, in particular about staples? Do you find value there? Again, it's a story wherein you still have extremely exorbitant valuation. Some of these stocks, though, have seen a correction, but the likes of Nestle, Dabur, etc., continue to see growth, as well as valuations continue to be rich as well. Where within FMCG do you find an opportunity?
So So obviously we would like some of the select FMCG, and if you look at over a period of time, if you look at last quarter or so, there is a single digit volume growth, and last 2 quarters, maybe before that there were double digit, and now there will be base effect also. And obviously now H2 may be slightly better because again the monsoon has been doing well for the last few days. So we look at that as a positive trigger, and they have been able to do some kind of a price hike in the recent times. And if you look at the valuation, I think they will be always costly, because if you look at our population of 130 crore people in the country, and if you look at the potential of the domestic consumption, these are going to be high. Because if you look at any other country, so I keep on giving this example that if US can have 4,000 Walmart store, or UK has 4,000 Tesco stores, and with a much lower population of 30-35 crore, and you are saying, let's say for example, DMart has only 170 or 180 stores. So do you think that we will be there maybe over a period of time, or an HUL or a Nestle, over a period of time these companies are going to do well, because there is a huge potential, and your per capita income is growing. Your per capita income is more than 2,000. The discretionary spend, people will be spending more on these things. So we look at mid to long term, this is a great story, and you will not find it cheap. And if you find it cheap, I think one should keep on buying in a staggered manner. That is what our take on the consumption is, on this FMCG and primarily staple products.
Second on the small caps, because you are seeing quite a bit of action there. That index is holding out comfortably in the green as we speak, nearly 1% for the small cap index. And there are names that are standing out. Take a look at Wockhardt, that's firing up in trade yet again. Something like ITDC, don't talk about it too often. You've also got Venky's India, quite active in today's trading session. CG Power, KC International and NCC. IBREL as well, building on the gains. You've got Raymond and Karnataka Bank. Just pull up some of these stocks. BEML is up by about 3.5%, and you've got MMTC, so some of those PSUs are definitely having a field day. You've also got traction building up within the infrastructure stroke real estate pocket. Arun, for the housing market, which has been in the doldrums for quite a while, muted sales, piling inventory, the liquidity crisis really playing out, what do you think is the need of the hour for turning things around here? And do you have any preferences within the space that have the potential to see an up move?
So I think first you talked about small cap. So small cap story now, I see around everybody is talking about that, yes, this is the time to buy a small cap, and we have seen now the difference between a large cap valuation or a mid and small cap, and over the last few months it is, so now it is looking very attractive. So but our take is that sometime it's very difficult to identify a good stock, and maybe one of the stock will take away your portfolio returns. So maybe sometime in these uncertain times, and when there is a slowdown, worries and all, so we are advising our customers that maybe some quality mid cap, wherever we are recommending, we are telling them to buy directly, but for small cap we are telling them to go through a mutual fund route, so that you get a basket of some such stocks. And I think that is going to definitely help over a period of let's say next 3 to 5 years. I think we are going to get very good returns. On the real estate, yeah, I agree with you that yes, there is an inventory, but over last few months we have seen the inventory slightly coming down. But then on and off we find some problem with some company, and then there are some corporate governance issues over a period of time. But the good companies, if you look at, they are doing well, where they are not much leveraged and all. So I think that should, but right now the time has not come to go whole hog. And again, there are some people who are taking a REITs route, maybe not buying a stock directly, but investing in maybe one of the listed REIT, and the performance of that has really been very encouraging, and maybe some more companies may follow. So that is how we are advising our customer to take that route. Either buy very good companies which are not leveraged, or get into the REITs. There is already one, there may be more coming.
Okay, fair enough. That's the outlook within the real estate space as a whole. Let's get a move on then, and focus in as to what exactly you're doing when it comes to media, because we've seen a lot of updates really coming in here, be it with JioFiber or even the kind of offerings that a lot of these companies have put up with OTT platforms as well. A lot of competition within the space, the new tariff regime. Where are you placing your bets within media?
So I think I was on TV when this news came by Reliance Jio that they will be offering this first day, first show and all that, and I think that time immediately all media company including PVR and Inox fell, and somebody asked me the same question. So I was telling that I think these companies continue to do well and they will not be affected to that extent, because if you are going out with your family on an evening, the objective is not to watch the movie only. You have to go out, you have to maybe spending time with your family, you will be having dinner outside, and you will be spending quality time with your friends and family. Sitting at home and watching first show may not excite many of us. So I think both will continue, and yes, there is a craze for OTT now, and everybody is in a family. There are 4 people sitting in 4 different rooms and watching their own series. So I think this will do well for some time, because that is the race today. But finally, I think people will come back to theatres, and there are still a lot of people on weekends, and there is a lot of choices in the good cinema happening. So I think this media company should continue to do well, and so one should not write them off. That is what we are talking to our investors, and maybe have little bit of those. If you already have, hold them.
All right, there you have it. That's the outlook coming in on media. Thanks so much for joining in, Arun, and giving us your views on individual sectors. Let's take a short break. Come right back for more.